NBA draft expert Raphael Barlowe tells you exactly who the Pelicans have to take with the 7th overall pick, and a bit of a juicy tidbit on Kon Knueppel. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pelicans, your daily New Orleans Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Pelicans, the daily podcast covering your favorite team, the New Orleans Pelicans and NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, available wherever you get your podcasts and available on YouTube. I'm your host, Pelicans Insider, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter. Here with y'all on this Tuesday, we've got Locked On NBA Big Board host Raphael Barlowe coming on the show here to break down everything Pelicans in the draft. By the way, today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Look, we're just going to get right into it here with Raphael Barlowe. Joining me now in Locked On Pelicans, I got Raphael Barlowe from Locked On NBA Big Board and the Big Board newsletter, which you should absolutely subscribe to. Raphael, thanks, man, for coming on and talking some draft here with me.
Yeah, no problem. Usually if I'm on, that means the season didn't go as planned. So I'm happy to talk sports, man.
Yeah, look, after a 21-win season for the Pelicans, it certainly did not kind of go as planned. But that actually leads to like the first thing I kind of want to ask you about here, where, you know, the Pelicans want to be competitive next year. Last season didn't go like they wanted due to injuries, mainly to the team here. Mm-hmm. When you're picking in the top 10 and you're trying to balance, you know, getting a long-term player, right, with a high ceiling, but also trying to be competitive next year, does, in your opinion, should that impact and influence who you end up drafting?
Yeah, without a doubt. I just think New Orleans is in a very unique situation. I don't think there's another team in the NBA that has a situation similar to the Pelicans. I mean, you got your point guard is hurt. Do you draft another point guard at number 7? I mean, Zion is supposed to be your cornerstone, but is like
they're in theory still building around him, not just next year, but like the foreseeable future, I guess.
Yeah. So this is almost like year 3 where his name is, you know, been floated around in trade scenarios. I've always thought that as unique of a talent as Zion is, and I had my first time watching him healthy was back in March, and man, he's incredible.
When he's special, like he's special. There's no getting around it, man. Like,
and seeing it on TV is one thing, but seeing it like up close and personal. But I've always thought Zion was a difficult guy to build around, even when he's healthy, because he's not spacing the floor. He's not grabbing 10 rebounds. So ideally, maybe you need to find you like a 7-footer that's like a rim protector, a rebounder, and a floor spacer, and those guys are hard to find.
So many of them all around the NBA and in the draft, right?
And so with that, with Zion being your cornerstone, it's just tough. But I mean, Trey Murphy's really, really good. And so I just think with the Pelicans, man, you have to take the player that you think is going to be the best player long term, even if that means trying to move up and get the guy that you really want. But like I said, they're just in a really unique situation this summer.
Yeah. So okay. So let's talk about the trade up, because that's kind of the big rumor going around right now. And you were on with Kevin O'Connor over at Yahoo, and he asked you about it, where he's hearing the Pelicans maybe trying to trade up to 3 to get Ace Bailey. Before we even get into that, give me your thoughts on Ace Bailey, because it seems I don't want to call him a polarizing prospect, but I think people have like different opinions on him.
Yeah, he is. And a lot of times, man, you read stuff on social media and on Twitter, and it's kind of like that may not be real. Like,
right? Easily might not.
Twitter may not be what GMs are thinking, and we've even seen it a little bit with some of the green room invites that came out today. Like, there's guys that everybody's mocking, including myself, going in the lottery, and they haven't received the green room invite yet. So with that being said, I mean, I love Ace's talent. Coming into the year, I thought I was one of the ones that believed, like, man, he has a chance to compete with Flag to go number 1. It only took like 2 games for me to see that. I was being overzealous there. But there's a lot to like about him. He has good positional size. May not be the 6'10" that Rutgers listed him at, but he wasn't a guy that was like a 5-star recruit as a 9th grader. He didn't become a 5-star until he's a senior in high school. when he's on, he might be the best player in college basketball when he's on, because he had a game where he was like 13 of 15 from the floor, had another game where he was 13 of 20, but sandwiched in between those games, it might be of 4 for 15, a little inconsistent, but I mean, you're just talking about a gifted shot maker that has a really, really high upside. And I think that's the reason why New Orleans is rumored to be interested in trying to move up to get him.
Is he the type of guy you would give up future draft capital or a Herb Jones like player to go and get? Do you view him as a guy that you're like, yeah, that's the type of player, or that is the player you want to kind of build around going forward?
I've had this discussion with my brother, and it's risky, but I look at what the Pelicans did with Trey Murphy. What was he, like the
17th, yeah.
17th pick? He averaged 5 a game as a rookie, and then he was 21 a game this year. So if you look at Ace, who's younger than what Trey was as a rookie, and if their skill sets are similar, if you can turn Trey into a 21 point per game scorer in 4 years, 4 years from now, Ace will only be like 22. And if you can get the same progression that you got with Trey and Ace, then you have like 2 big wings that can shoot and knock down shots. And if Zion is your guy, then you've provided the floor spacing for him, at least with 2 of the positions. And Zion is a very good passer. So
Agreed.
That's my thinking behind that. You get you two wings that can knock down shots, that are plus athletes. And again, if you can get Ace on the same trajectory where you had Trey Murphy, you really got something there.
And there's been a couple of rumors the past day or so about the Pelicans really wanting to invest more in player development than maybe they have in the past, even though I think they've done a decent job with that. But that certainly seems to be an emphasis that Joe Dumars, coming in now running the team, seems to put on it. So trading up for a guy that you think has that high ceiling, and you can develop him. But it also gives you a little bit of Zion insurance, right? Zion's contract is still one they can get out of, for whatever reason. Maybe in the future, they just decide they want to do a reset. And I agree with you that building around like a non-shooting big man that isn't elite at rebounding or rim protection is kind of tough, despite all the talent that Zion has. You could probably do worse than 2 kind of elite shot-making wings in Trey Murphy and Ace Bailey as the start of your rebuild going forward.
Yeah. And I like what the Pelicans have done. I mean, Herb Jones coming out of Alabama was not a shooter. Jose Alvarado was not considered an NBA player. I mean, that draft he was in, I didn't have him in my top 100 players. So that's 2 guys that they've really developed or have outplayed where they were projected to go in the draft or where they went. And then, like I said, Trey Murphy's been really good. So if they can get one more really big developmental plus, and I think Eve is a guy that he's a late bloomer. He's pretty raw still. So like I said, it's a weird situation, but they have some talent and some pieces to complement Zion.
Yeah. Final thing on Ace Bailey. Do you think he and Zion fit at all? I think that's one of the things that I think has been a little bit of the concern, at least for Pelicans fans, of there's probably, I don't think Brandon Ingram's the NBA comp for Ace Bailey, but there's some of that in terms of the shot selection, I think. And you saw the past 2 years, maybe Ingram and Zion didn't fit too well together.
Yeah, I'm a big Brandon Ingram fan. I was like the guy arguing online in 2016 who was better than Ben Simmons. So, yeah, I mean, I never thought of it from that perspective. I think that Ace's shot selection, the crazy shots, is due to limited handle, but he has this unique ability to where he can stop, pop, and fire and shoot over the top of guys. And so I think with Ace, sometimes the bad shots are because he gets in trouble trying to put the ball on the floor. But I think that can easily be worked on. Brandon is a guy that I thought the Pelicans had some real success with, point forward Brandon. I really wanted that to work. I don't know why it didn't work. Maybe I didn't watch enough Pelicans games, but I think
also injuries, right? Like they didn't play enough together. I think that's a big part of it too.
Yeah. I mean, I would have loved to see more Ingram and Zion pick and rolls, or even like some inverted Zion Ingram pick and pops or something like that. But I don't think Ace is going to be the point forward or the passer that Brandon Ingram ended up becoming. Maybe I'm wrong, but right now I don't see any of the flashes of it.
Yeah. So coming up next here on Locked On Pelicans, Raphael had the scoop on some of the workouts that the team was doing. I want to ask him about one of those players in particular. I'll let you know who it is coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by FanDuel. We got the finals here, and it has been fun so far. Every game, highlight-worthy performances, major momentum swings, and can't-miss moments. So whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. And you can do that with FanDuel. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. If you want to get in on Finals MVP, you can get in on the betting for that as well. Whether it's Tyrese Halliburton or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, feels like one of those two guys, whichever one wins the series. It's another way to get in on the action over at FanDuel. Now it's the best time. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet, and if it wins, $200 in bonus bets. Again, that gives you more opportunities for same-game parlays and to bet on the biggest moments. So make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We're here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast, covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Join over 11,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well. Now you can watch Locked On Pelicans on Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network every weekday at 10:30 a.m. I'm joined by Raphael Barlowe of Locked On NBA Big Board here. In your newsletter, you put out the scoop that the Pelicans had a big group workout, and one of the big names in there was Derik Queen. And I think he's a really interesting prospect because it's kind of that prototypical big man that would work next to Zion Williamson, someone who has a pretty good handle, who can make shots from distance and show some evidence of spacing. How do you view him in this draft and like kind of compare him to Cayman Malwatch? Entirely different kind of player, but which one on your personal big board do you have higher?
I have Malwatch higher. Quinn is a better player right now, but Malwatch is easier to plug and play. Low volume guy, 7-footer, rim protector. In theory, like if you look at the numbers, they weren't like, they don't just jump off the page as a shot blocker. But he's young, man. Like I think he just started playing at 15, massive wingspan. It's definitely like an upside swing. It may be a little bit redundant to, your first round pick last year in Missy.
I don't think that drafting Missy last year would stop them from taking a big this year. That's just kind of the sense I've gotten from talking to people around the team.
Yeah. I mean, just from what I've heard is that nobody knows what the Pelicans are going to do. If you look at the workout that I mentioned, that's a wide range of guys that are all projected to be in the first round. So the first thing I thought of when I saw the list or when I heard about it, I'm like, all right, they must be making another move because only one, and it could be a stretch in that mix, was Queen and maybe Dimon. Only guys that you could see, even in, I think it's a reach at 7. The rest of the guys are mid first rounders, maybe late first rounders. So I thought that was a very, very interesting workout. I mean, it was Derik Queen, Yegor Dimon, Will Riley, Nate Clifford, and Liam McNeely. I think I'm missing one more person. But anyway, Queen is a guy that I like. I don't know about the fit with Zion, but
is he actually going to end up being a floor spacer at the NBA level?
The numbers don't support it right now.
Like not at all, do they?
But he has great touch. I mean, if you saw he hit like that game-winning shot against Colorado State, that's a shot that, one, for the coach to draw it up for him means he believed he was going to make it. And that takes an incredible amount of skill. The NBA is weird today. Like on paper, you don't think that Alperen Sengun and Steven Adams, you don't think that lineup would work, but they were successful with that lineup. So maybe Queen and Zion could work together. I mean, I just can imagine all the jokes. I mean, social media would have a field day with those two. But I like Quinn. I mean, skill for skill, man. He's one of the best. He's a very good passer. He rebounds, soft hands. I think he's just a guy that's going to be like fit is important for everybody, but I think he's one of the guys that fit is really going to be important for him.
For Queen, are there worries about like his motor, the defensive side of the ball and everything? Because watching him, like you see him at least defensively either not know where he's supposed to be or almost like taking possessions off, it seemed like. But I mean, also that's the case of a lot of guys too.
Yeah. I mean, Queen had some good footage of him like defending in space.
Mm-hmm.
I remember talking to a scout a few months ago about Derik Queen. He was like, yeah, our guys are going to like him, but we're going to have a hard time around the draft showing his film to our coach and saying, this is the guy that we like. And he was saying, like, if you don't watch a lot of film on him, you're going to see him jogging. You're going to see him with the mouthpiece hanging out of his mouth. You're just going to assume that he's not bringing forth a lot of energy. But then you look at the box score and you're like, dang, he had 18 and 10 and 2 assists. So he was even saying that he thinks like at first glance, he may not be appreciated. You're just going to have to watch him over time to really appreciate what he can do. But it's going to be a hard sell for some coaches who are looking like, all right, this guy doesn't look like he plays hard. What am I going to do with him?
Look, in New Orleans with head coach Willie Green, like if you're not trying on defense and putting forth that effort, you're going to get buried at the bench, right? There's a reason Trey Murphy, as good of a player as he's become, like was up and down in terms of the rotation his rookie year. And it had a lot to do with the head coach. As you said, like it's not just fit in terms of on court, but like on the personality side of things and going to the right, like situation, I guess is the word that I'm looking for rather than fit in particular. I want to ask you about Jeremiah Fears, because this is a guy that I think you're really high on. And I've, from reading your stuff on him and watching your show, have really come to appreciate, like if he's there at 7, is that just a no-brainer pick for the Pelicans, especially with the DeJounte Murray injury?
To me it is. And maybe I'm a little biased because I really like him. He's a guy that I'm going beyond the numbers and the measurables. What I love about him is out of all the point guards in this class, and you can make a case that all the players that are projected in his range, they were kind of slotted in to be the guy. They were given the keys. He wasn't even expected to be Oklahoma's starting point guard this season.
Right.
He didn't begin the season as their starter. Oklahoma hadn't made the NCAA tournament in like 4 or 5 years, and the SEC was incredibly tough. So for them to ride the coattails of a freshman that was actually supposed to be in high school,
He reclassified,
17, 4 and 4. To me, that's an intangible that I think like a front office would appreciate. Like, all right, this young freshman in the tough SEC literally carried his team to the NCAA tournament, something that hadn't been done in 4 or 5 years, probably saved the coach's job. Those are the intangibles that I would look for in a guy that I think could be my point guard of the future. And I think he has the alpha mentality. He's tough. I was talking to a scout who went to watch him play, and he said that there was a game that he just got knocked down on the ground continuously, and he kept getting back up. And he was at the free throw line talking noise back to the bigs that were knocking him down. But by the end of the game, they were in foul trouble, and he was just relentless. And he just thinks that he can carry a team. And so that's what I would look for in a young point guard. Then, I mean, the stats were good. At least, maybe the efficiency wasn't as far as 3-point shooting, but he shot 85% from the foul line. So I think the touch is good. But if I'm looking for a point guard to be an engine for my future, I mean, without a doubt, I would take Jeremiah Fears.
Do you worry he's, I think a lot of my listeners have worried that he's maybe like a little boom or bust kind of player. He's a little bit undersized. Is that something you're concerned about with him? Or do you think he's maybe even going to be able to come in as a rookie and make an impact on winning? Because the Pelicans are going to be looking for that too. This is, a rookie's not walking into a rebuilding situation where there's no expectations, right?
It's weird. I mean, the games that they win last year, 21 games.
21.
It's
not a rebuilding situation.
I honestly, I just think everybody in this class is boom or bust. It's crazy as
like,
it may
that's
sound.
the draft too, right? Like that's kind of how it is.
They're all 18 or 19 years old. Teams have only had 30 games in college film to scout them. I think the top 15 picks are going to be either freshmen or one European player that just turned 18 in December. So I think there's high risk with everyone. I mean, I think Cooper Flagg is pretty safe. I think Kon Knueppel is safe, but I don't know if he's going to bring you the type of...
I'm going to ask you about him in the next segment, actually.
Yeah,
he's one that I'm interested in. Like, he's an interesting player, I think.
He's very interesting. But I understand the hesitancy, but I just think that Fears has what NBA teams are looking for. There was a game I saw where he got in the paint like 7 or 8 consecutive possessions, 2 feet in the paint. And with his ability to draw 2 defenders and find an open man. I think his game is just perfectly suited for today's NBA, but he has the mindset that I really value.
I think that's something that they're looking for. You've heard Joe Dumars a lot in interviews and things like that talk about getting to know. Everyone can see the stats, they can see the measurables. It's about getting to know the person, the player in that sense. And given his past, right? Like Joe Dumars is the type of guy that values that toughness, that relentless attacking and all of those things. So those kind of intangibles, those kind of qualities seem to really match up with something that Joe Dumars, even Troy Weaver, is probably kind of looking for when it comes to their next kind of big player here. So coming up next, I'm going to ask you about Kon Knueppel. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday. Follow us on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, and now on Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. For your second listen, go check out Ross Jackson and the Locked On Saints podcast. Minicamp still going on. He's breaking down the QB battle. Who's it going to be? Make sense of everything black and gold with the Locked On Saints podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I teased it coming into the break here. I got to ask you about Kon Knueppel because it just got reported that he worked out for the team. He seems like the safest pick, it seems like. And you kind of even said that, like, his floor seems to be pretty high. He'll be able to come in and fit around Zion really well. I think when you're looking at this and drafting in the top 7, the question then becomes, like, how high is his ceiling and what level could he reach at the NBA? And look, he was overshadowed on a really good Duke team next to Cooper Flagg and a lot of other guys there too, and still put up some really good numbers. How do you view his NBA career kind of going and his role?
Yeah, I think best case scenario, he's Desmond Bane, which is pretty good.
I'm a big Desmond Bane fan. So like
he went for a lot of picks in the trade. So I think that's his best case scenario. Oh man, like,
so how's this? Is he a number 2 on a championship winning team, or is he the third best player?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think so. I mean, if he's Desmond Bane was, you can say he was the Grizzlies' third best player. Like,
yeah.
And I mean, when they were healthy, they were good. The thing about Kon that scares me a little bit, and this is just me personally, I've heard that he was supposed to be in that big workout, but he's only working out by himself.
Yeah, that's actually something. Like, yeah, I get what you're saying there. That's I've
heard multiple agents tell me that they don't think he can defend, that they think that he was a good defender at Duke because he had Molly Welch and Flagg behind him. And so there's some agents that were hoping to work out against him. They wanted to put their guy against him and see. And from everything that I've heard, he's not working out against anybody. It's only solo workouts. You can look at it two ways. You can look at it as that's a great job by his agent. That is like, hey man, my guy is already high enough. We're not gonna put him in position to work out with anybody or against anybody. Then there's some reports that he had a sprained ankle at the combine. But he seems like he's been hidden. Like he's been hidden.
It's almost like ducking things or something like that. Like that's
you say, not me, but
yeah, no. I mean, I get what you're just saying here. Like I understand that, right? Like I've heard stories from different workouts and things in the past of like, you'll have a lot of agents of these players like not want their guy to go do a whole lot during this process because they're worried that something bad comes out or they have a bad showing. Look, this is how the Pelicans drafted Buddy Hield over Jamal Murray. They got Jamal Murray in for a workout and his agent wasn't around. So they got Murray to play one-on-one against one of the assistant coaches and the assistant coach lit him up in that workout. Murray was bad defensively. That swung how the Pelicans were going to make a draft decision. So
it just shows you how scary it is to pick a player because
like kind of crazy, right? Like that completely swung things based on that workout. So these, if you're not, I get what you're saying on that is going to put something in the minds of front offices probably when it comes to that, and probably makes people doubt him a little bit more when it comes to it. In terms of like the top 10, it does seem like we have some idea maybe of how this is going to go, but could you see a guy like Tre Johnson falling a little bit here and maybe ending up at 7? Or do you think, given his scoring ability in the SEC, as you mentioned earlier, and how tough that conference is, he seems like not going to be there at 7?
Yeah, I mean, that would be a big win for the Pelicans if he falls that far. I mean, personally, I would take him at number 3.
Okay.
I'm talking about a guy that led the SEC in scoring, and he shot 39% from three on 6 attempts per game, and a lot of those attempts were heavily contested. I want to say that he was like the best movement shooter from three in this class. I mean, he's a phenomenal shooter. He's a player that I've been watching since he was in 10th grade. So I like him a lot. Like I said, I would take him at 3. But if he falls to 7, I mean, that would be a massive win for the Pelicans.
Just run the card up to try and get that in. But before I let you go here, anyone else you think the Pelicans should be considering at 7? Anyone we've missed here?
I mean, I like Fears. Fears will be my choice. Yeah, I'll go with Fears. I mean, I think Knueppel would be safe. I just think that they're in a spot where you can possibly get your point guard of the future in Jeremiah Fears. If you want to swing for the fences on Maliwauch, then he should be available. I think it just depends on what Washington does, obviously. But I think, like I said, they're in a good situation. If you just want the safest guy that you know that is going to be high character, that is going to knock down shots, be a connective passer, then Kon Knueppel could be your guy. But I think I would swing for the fences. I would go with Fears.
Raphael, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for taking the time, hopping on Locked On Pelicans here with me. Anything big coming over at Locked On NBA Big Board?
Yeah, I'll be at the draft. Me and my brother will be at the draft. I actually need to buy a hotel. But yeah, we'll be at the draft. We'll be reporting live. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I appreciate you. Everyone, make sure you check out Locked On NBA Big Board for the latest news and everything. Make that your second listen today. And that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Pelicans. I appreciate y'all so much for listening. As always, I'm your host, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter. This is the Locked On Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.